does it look like when the worlds of music and social justice intersect? That's the question that I look at on this podcast. It's called It's Giving, and it's hosted by me, Ingela Travers Hayward. This week, it's giving Grace Potter. First of all, Grace is a huge 4-time Grammy-nominated artist, and she's got a brand new album that just came out called Trespasser. So I am incredibly lucky that she sat down and did this interview with me. I'm so appreciative. I actually first heard of Grace through Perry, my co-director at our nonprofit, This Must Be the Place. Also, my husband. When we go to festivals, we ask artists if they'd ever be willing to pose with a kit of Narcan because it just helps raise awareness for how important it is to carry this stuff. And so when we asked Grace if she would be down, she said, of course. And when she met with Perry and they sat to take that photo, she actually mentioned that she had once gone into a women's prison and helped them with a songwriting workshop. And she also talked about how much of an impact that had on her. I had always been really intrigued by that fact, and so I was really excited when suddenly things come full circle and I got the chance to ask her all about it in an interview. So we talk about that, and we also end up talking about her love for Middle America. Having traveled to so many corners of this country, Grace just has this incredible insight into the importance of hearing different perspectives. But she also talks about how music has given her a way to share hers, so that's really important as well. One final note, and then I will get into the interview, I promise. If this is your first time listening, go ahead and do me a favor and click subscribe wherever you're listening to this. That just helps keep this little independent podcast going, I promise. And with that, thank you to Grace for coming on the show, and I really hope you enjoy the episode. Well, Grace, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure, Ingela. Thank you for having me. I love your bookcase you got back there. There's all kind. I'm like, what's up on that rack, man? What you got?
I always say I've read maybe 5% of them, but as long as it makes me look semi-intelligent, that's all I care about. It's all about the show, But yeah, I sort of usually start this off with this podcast. It's about music and advocacy and sort of how they come together. Is there an instance in your mind of an artist that has used those two things simultaneously that is sort of a perfect example of using your platform for social good, either historically or more current day? Is there an artist that comes to mind?
I would say Mavis Staples. She is a propellant of joy and wisdom. But she doesn't just like pick a cause and stick with it. She just brings it from every side. It's all connected. There's just this compelling sense of love and believing in people, putting her faith in other people. I just got to see her in New Orleans at Trombone Shorty's birthday party, and it was so powerful for me because she is everyone's cheerleader. And it's because she believes that, she was given this gift from birth, and her job is to take that gift and share it for as long as she can. I was at her 75th birthday party, her 80th birthday party, her 85th birthday party.
Oh my God.
Her 90th will be coming up soon.
Oh my
and
God.
what I can't stop thinking about is that every time she's cutting that cake, she's like, I've been doing this since I'm 3 years old. And God gave me this gift. And, I'm not a religious person, but I am spiritual in that what she says to me, I truly believe she knows she was born knowing what her job was. And she just took it and ran with it. And she's not putting that ball down. She's holding it so beautifully and so brightly. And she's also handing it over to everyone else and sharing it.
Yeah.
So that the cause is in her life and some of the really difficult things she's been through. And every story she tells, it deepens my understanding of somebody's social dignity in a space and a time when our identities are so wavering. I feel like everybody's sort of just like they spread the butter on a little harder on one side or the other depending on where they are. And she just doesn't. She just pours the butter over everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm curious when it comes to you, do you feel any sort of similar sentiment where you feel like you have just wanted to weave activism or advocacy into your career since the very beginning? Because from an outsider, when I look at your whole career, it seems like it's been a no-brainer to sort of talk about the things that matter to you. Is that the case?
It's in my music. I mean, if you look at that record, This Is Somewhere, the first major label record I put out, it's no coincidence that the record cover looks a lot like Iwo Jima. There's a very specific moment where I wanted to tell a story that was both a fiction or some kind of an imaginary, I'm telling stories about Columbus, and these deeper lyrics that are embedded in there that are obviously, I'm sort of thumbing my nose at what we were raised to believe versus what is true, what is actually the components of our life that build the structure and the society that we live in. And also acknowledging that some of us were not given a choice, that some of us are desperate to understand our identity in a place where our identity is constantly being redefined. And so I never thought of the word advocacy as a job. It's just sort of who I am. And it arrives in my lyrics regularly and has done, I think, since the beginning, but probably more so as I've crystallized into the person I am and realized that, much like Mavis, my purpose in this world is to teach people that it's okay to be curious and brave and to bear witness to what is happening and potentially plug yourself in and power up and do something about it.
Well, talking about lyrics and the themes and what you reference in them, I think with your new album, Trespasser, I was reading that you're weaving in the things that sort of are a reflection of what's going on today, the troubles, the tumultuous times that we're living in. And I'm curious, getting into more specifics, what kind of that's one of my other guests described us living as in a hellscape right now, which I thought was probably an extremely apt and eloquent way to describe it. But I think for you, what are the current day issues that you are referencing on this album?
Chaos. It's fucking chaos. Excuse me. The hellscape is one way to say it. It's chaos. And the great thing about somebody like me is I am a chaos agent. Okay. And I thrive in chaos. And I'm not here to say I know the way, but I am more comfortable than many people are in these particular set of really challenging obstacles that we're facing, and also unknowns, because the unknown is very fun for me. I love getting in the car and not knowing where I'm going. And I think we're all in that car right now. And I'm not trying to butter over this whole thing. Like I said, there's a way to butter the toast that's true, and there's a way that's sort of weighted. I don't want to weight this in one direction of advocacy or another. What I really feel is that our heart is broken. Like the universal heart is broken over injustice. And I think that that's one trigger point that we can go to, and we can kind of paint our signs and go out and wave our flags. But it's also that's just one piece of a much more interconnected breaking down of a system. And I think the chaos that is being felt has a lot more to do with the fact that our information wheel is more full. The pie, there is no more room in the pie for other. And because we don't have that space where we could maybe reallocate and redefine things, the boundaries are all broken down, and it's kind of a hot mess. Not kind of, it is a hellscape. But I think I come at it with, I try to think of the dignity, the social responsibility, and the dignity that Mavis brings into things. And I want to look at that wheel from a new direction, and instead of looking at this wheel as full, let's turn the wheel into a sphere, and let's create some more dimension and some more understanding of the connection and the interconnected way in which things are changing rapidly. And we all need to find that space in ourselves to get curious again, and ask ourselves individually what we need to do, because not everybody brings the same thing to the table. If we did, this would be a very tipped over world.
What benefit do you think that becoming a curious person can have?
It starts with not being all-knowing. I think admitting that and removing the ego from it, and really acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and that the systems that we have held in place for generations and generations are systems that are not working anymore. That there is no Control-Alt-Delete to some of the things that we've already done, that we have moved through a lot of one-way doors that have shut behind us.
Yeah.
And we have a responsibility to acknowledge the doors that have been shut, but we don't need to sit there and mourn them and kick them, try and get them back open again.
Yeah.
We need to move through it. There is no way out, only through. And so weaving a deeper web of connection, and I don't mean networking and LinkedIn responses and, hey, I got your, thank you, I'll hit you back next, let's circle the wagons.
Let's circle
week.
back. Yeah.
So
LinkedIn is not going to save us. Yeah.
We can't circle back, okay? And the wagons are long gone, babies.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is we just need to hitch onto one another while acknowledging that not all the hitches are going to fit exactly right. Mm-hmm. That if we're pulling in the same direction, it better be a direction that not only do we all agree upon, but that we can move through the things we don't agree upon in a way that I think the way the universe works and the way that all the stardust comes together and falls apart is built on things that we don't understand yet. And so that's where curiosity, I think, there's a revelation I had maybe 5-6 years ago in the not knowing what's going to happen is actually a comfort to me. And that it helped me understand myself quite a bit. I
think a lot more of us need to have that acceptance or it's sort of that like, I'm not religious either, but that come to Jesus moment where it's like, it's okay. It's okay that the question mark is there, but I think trying to learn can sort of help get you there,
Well, yeah, because otherwise you're just like white knuckling it through your whole life and pumping brakes on a machine that doesn't have brakes anymore. There's not even an e-brake, So why not just coast down this weird, slippery path in a way that has empathy, that brings compassion, and that acknowledges that everyone is bringing their own trauma and their own brokenness to something, but they're also bringing their incredible strength.
Yeah.
And each of us has maybe a potentially wonderful solution that maybe isn't the all-ending best solution, but that each of us attempting to bring our best to the table is something that I would love to see. And I certainly am trying to do that in my life and not in a performative way, but in a very honest way.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm curious about myself where you're concerned is, you're bi-coastal in California and then your family farm in Vermont. You've made these road trips back and forth between the two places. I read, I think, 8 times in 5 years, which is so impressive.
We're starting our 9th next week, actually.
Oh gosh. I mean, well, I'm curious because does making those drives help inform you or teach you, I guess, a little bit about the state of the country at all? Like, I'm just, you get to see I assume you get to see so
deeply.
much. And so I'm just wondering if is that one of those things that does help you or does inform, what you want to talk about, the messages that you want to get out there.
Yes, very much so, especially because it is across the line of, there is no political journey greater than the one in which you are in the backyard of people and you need gas and they've got a gun. And you know what I mean? Like there's only so many tools we have in our toolkit to manage and help people understand that we need help. Where you're not actually just waving a white flag, because I actually have I now have a white flag in my car.
A literal, okay.
Yes, but just so people know, like I'm which is so funny because it's like. I've been watching a couple of shows like Fallout where the white flag is, these are end of days, like, we're in the apocalypse and that's why you have the white flag. And I realized recently, I'm like, I have one of those. Does that mean we're in the apocalypse? Anyways, it's a connection point that I've made because I love Middle America and I love meeting people and understanding what made them drop their suitcases and say, this is where I live for good. Yeah. And staking your claim on a place is one thing. But settling into a place is different. And this isn't as much about whose turf is whose. There's that HBO show, Neighbors, which is so much about this fence is here for a reason, and you won't cross my fence. And I'm actively crossing over many, many fences in order to get home to Vermont and get my family safely there. And at the beginning, it was a really reckless adventure. And I didn't even have pepper spray or somebody gave me a hammer once on the road and was like, you need a weapon of some kind. I'm like, well, I don't like guns. So anyways, what I have learned is that everybody's lonely, that everybody has an urgent feeling that they want to connect, but there's just this weird rubbery barrier that happens before that breakdown of like stranger talking to stranger that I find extremely exhilarating to cross over, but other people are not so comfortable with. So I have had to learn empathy and learn ways in which to enter into other people's multiverse, their story, their trauma. And I'm not trying to needle in. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a curious person who is really willing to connect. And if I bring that willingness, I think it does create a safe space for people to be honest. I've learned more than I ever could by just hanging out with the people who already understand how I feel or agree with me, because that echo chamber is extremely boring and dangerous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, we're based in New York now, but we're living in Ohio for 5 years. And I very much learned, you need to, it's a benefit to yourself to be able to talk to people who don't agree with you. I'm Canadian, I'm a bleeding heart liberal, but I think being able to still respect someone, even if you don't respect their beliefs, I think it's a really valuable thing, especially, as you know, in this day and age,
Well, yeah, we always say trust your gut. And I think that it's never been more important than it is now because with the boundaries and the blurred lines that we have, it's interesting because while all this information is there, the scales have been so deeply tipped left and right. And these are my beliefs. It's a belief system that I think is really at the heart of what is the most dangerous, because once it's a set of beliefs, it's not in your prefrontal cortex. It's embedded itself in your lizard brain, and you have something to defend. You have something that's forging its own path that you really don't have control over. And even your gut will begin to lie to you if you let it settle in to your full embodiment. So I've had my mind changed on so many topics. I had a really amazing conversation with a woman who was, she was literally putting up the billboard with the dead baby, the picture of the baby.
I've seen those.
And I saw her doing it, and then about 3 exits down, I needed to get gas, fill up my air, and she pulls in with her super, super Trumpy truck. And I said, were you the one doing the billboard? And we just got into a really wonderful conversation
that's
about
amazing.
And her story and her journey and the pain she felt and the loss that she experienced. That's not just belief. That's also trauma, and it's her body remembering things. And her gut and her truth are so deeply connected that once she knew I wasn't an invader trying to come in and, pillage, she was much more willing to share the personal side of it, which I think really helped me to understand. It didn't change my mind.
No.
But it also didn't make me I walked away with a lot of respect for what conjures a deep belief system. And it helped me to understand that from a new perspective.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all just moving around with our own framework, and so there's so much that's made up of that. But yeah, I think being able to have those conversations to me it's the most important thing, and it's something that I never want to be able to lose. But okay, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because as someone who runs a nonprofit, it's not for the faint of heart. What made you want to start your own foundation? Because you've got Grand Point Foundation, what was it that made it so that you wanted to actually go ahead and start this thing?
Well, I think it does go back to the body, right? So I remember the feeling of growing up in Vermont, and physically there was very little opportunity for me to share my light, to shine my light. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to begin. I didn't know who to ask even. And there's so few people in that community. The population is low. The venues were, there was very, very few places to play and share performance and expressive arts. And so the foundation started because my festival is this one wild, wonderful, bright point in the year in Vermont where so many creatives from all walks of life are being given a chance and a platform to do that. And I loved it, and I was always proud of the festival, but it was also like, okay, but this is like a commercial venture. How do I make this actually come from my heart? Because it's not, like you said, it's not for the faint of heart. But my heart has been strong on this from the beginning, and I've lost so much money trying to throw that festival.
I get it.
As a female, there's not that many female-run festivals, and I thought about that, and I was like, well, that's not really what it's about either. I love that it's a female-run festival, but that's not it. And I really dug into what was at the heart of what made me want to have the festival to begin with. And it was the fact that when there's a thing missing from a society, when a culture is not thriving, there's a reason. And if you can pinpoint that reason down to, we just need a big patch of grass in a beautiful place for people to just express and explore and have an audience there to bear witness. And that audience could even become part of that experience of exploration. The foundation really started there. So it's basically just, supporting rural artists in places where maybe the platforms are limited. And I want to help them find networks and resources to share their light, because genius comes from the mountains. It comes from the middle of nowhere. It comes from big cities. It comes from cross-country road trips. But most importantly, it comes from the fact that we need to connect with one another, and I want to be that connector.
Hey, Perry here. I am a loyal It's Giving follower because my wife, Ingela Travers Hayward, will file for divorce if I'm not. If you want to support a fully independent podcast that is talking about the pulse of activism and where it intersects with music, then just hit that subscribe button. You have no idea how much it helps. And now I'll quit talking, which is incredibly hard for me to do, and get you back to the episode.
How do you're such a big artist now. How do you decide where you want to lend help, right? Because one of the things that I remember reading about you that you did, which I thought was fascinating, and my co-director, he spent a bunch of years in prison for his addiction. He's obviously out now doing great, but he loved it too, is the fact that I think it was with Newport Festival Foundations, you went into a prison in Rhode Island. So how do you decide this is something that I want to do? Because I imagine there's no shortage of places that are asking for your help.
There were two opportunities for me to do that. And the first time I passed it up, and I wished I had it. And I remember it was in 2010, I was given the opportunity to go to a men's prison. And I think at the time, my boyfriend was like, no. But I always regretted it. I always wished I had done it. And I think that part of the sparking of the wanting to connect with prisoners is that I've learned a lot more about prisoners. I've learned about there's levels of injustice that have gone on that aren't just about whether they did the crime or not, and we should get there's some amazing work being done, but I'm not a forensic expert. What I know is that creativity is an empowering place for healing. And whether someone is innocent, guilty, or somewhere in between, things are going on and life is hard, even on the outside. Now put them on the inside, bury resources, remove freedom, and you've got a very stuck culture of people. And I'm not there to say I could get you unstuck, but I certainly am here to listen. And so I really, I think, found and was able to crystallize that my job is to bear witness to the voices and the present moment of a day in the life in a prison. And these women brought so many incredible lyrics, and they brought so many stories, and the stories, I carry them with me everywhere I go. I've never wanted to commercialize it, but I have an entire album of music created just because of my experience. And it's been hard because I don't know where it will land. I would love for it to land somewhere someday, but you got to do that the right way. But allowed me a level of sensitivity. And I was so grateful to Newport Folk Fest and their foundation for bringing me in because, again, like I said, when you have that regret or that woulda, coulda, shoulda, and then you're given an opportunity to jump on it again, it really was an empowering experience for me. But mostly, I hope it was a positive experience for those folks that are imprisoned people that have stories to tell, and they deserve to be able to tell them.
Is there anything at the end of the day, you're a working musician, right? And it's a
Yeah.
business. Is there ever any nerves over what I think, just having talked to you for 25 minutes, I think I know the answer, but is there ever any nerves over what I want to talk about, who I want to help, who I want to have a record of having align myself with? Are you ever nervous about that? Or, posting something on Instagram? Like, is there ever any nerves anymore? Or is it like, I am who I am and take it or leave it?
Oh yeah, no, I got over that a long time ago.
Okay.
I thought you were going somewhere a little different because cancel culture is scary, and I definitely had that moment, especially during COVID when everybody was just so finger on the button of like, boom, you're bad, boom, you're bad, you got a bad heart, you got an ugly idea of how to live right now. I mean, I just put out a movie trailer where I'm smoking cigarettes, which I don't do in real life, but boy, so like things like that. The only thing I ever really think about is when my kid sees it years to come, that he understands that was art, not mommy being a bad girl when he's not looking.
Yes,
I think that's the thing that gives me the greatest pause is that my creativity does wander into subversive waters pretty quickly, but that it is important. It is a darkness that I have had to understand the boundary of where I'm able to harvest it in a way that is empowering for people versus where it's just ugly for ugly's sake, and I'm really wandering there with this record, Trespasser. It's the most ugly, but it's also the most self-actualizing because I'm kind of wringing out some of the dirtiest laundry I have in front of the world, and I did have to really ask myself before pressing go on any of this. Is this something that I'm going to be proud for my grandkids and my great-grandkids and my ancestors from before? Would everybody understand where this is coming from? And again, creativity is such a beautiful vessel for that because it is not me standing on a soapbox saying, this is what I believe in. It is me saying, I got a song and a story to tell. And it's mine because it came from me, but also I don't believe that any of this really belongs to any of us, including my voice. And, I'm just a bag of skin that can do some good singing. So like, why not tell some fucked up stories?
I mean, that's quite a way to put it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You're going to have to bleep that out. I feel like this is not a bad language podcast, but you're going to have to back that up.
It's swearing is cathartic. So I always, think that it's part of self-care, if saying fuck or shit, it makes you feel good, do what you got to do. But no, so my final question for you, I think, is as someone who, if someone's listening to this podcast, you're a fan or just an everyday person or whomever, and they're feeling, that sort of crushing weight of the world right now, because it's tough to be human right now, and they want to try and do something to help someone else, and they're just lost and they're not sure what they want to do. What kind of advice would you have for someone like that?
Don't tell yourself stories anymore. Don't mask. You can be buried in a belief system. That's one thing. But stories aren't beliefs yet. They're just right here. They're still at the front of your brain. Yeah. And it's probably because of some weird, true crime thing you heard or some news broadcast that set your mind in a motion of fear and in a direction of protecting or salvaging. It's not to say don't look back, because there's so much to learn from our history. Yeah. And there is a patterning of behavior that we all have the ability to recognize. And it's not so much about change your behavior, change your life. Yeah. It's about recognizing those patterns before they weave themselves into beliefs that may or may not serve us in the long run. So again, getting curious about these stories and detangling the masks that we wear and the expectations that are set up for us before we make big decisions in our lives, because those big decisions do ripple out into the fabric of our community, and it matters a lot. And it's not something where you should feel bad if you change your mind. And I think it's very empowering to understand that. I wish my younger self could have heard that advice a long time ago.